Fish at 6, and away we go. We will do it live tonight. Yes, of course. And we will keep it crisp because we have to get to the NBA lottery. The Mavericks have a 3% chance of getting Victor and a 65% chance of having the 10th overall pick in the draft. Wonk, wonk. I'll go item by item tonight. I'll do so with your help. There might be 10 of them or so involved here. And we invite you to get in, get on, be good, so you can make your contributions as well. Bring something of intellect to the table, and away we go. Item. This is the time now. Draft's over. The tiers of free agency are all but over. And so all the national websites now have to do their stories on what's the team's biggest hole? What's each team's biggest weakness? Now, I can already hear you saying, some of you, 3 of you, because we only allow 3 slappies per night. I'll tell you what the team's biggest weakness is, Fish. Dak. Stop it. We know how dopey that is. The team's biggest hole right now, to me, is clearly the one that they are admitting they have, since they are willing to examine anyone on earth who can kick. The Cowboys' biggest roster hole is at kicker, and they've announced it. But Yahoo decides to go in another direction, and they've done their team-by-team study. And here's the way they want to do it. And that's where we come up with the thumbnail and the headline, and that's where we begin tonight. That the Cowboys have a problem at wide receiver. And I got to tell you, I guess I didn't go deeper than the Dak joke and the kicker reality. We went into the draft, and we went into free agency and the draft saying run-stopping defensive tackle. We all said that. They brought back Big Jonathan, and then they draft Mozzie. So you can't complain about that anymore. They talked very openly about left guard. I still think if you play the best 5, that's not a hole. I do not think they are signing a guard anytime in the coming weeks. I don't think they're doing that. I wouldn't have gotten around to wide receiver. But Yahoo, that's where they want to take us, detailing the biggest remaining need of every team in the league. And Yahoo's saying that it's the Cowboys' receiver room that remains the shallowest. Here's their logic. And I'll quote, the Cowboys are 1 injury away from being in the same wide receiver predicament they were in a year ago when they had to sign T.Y. Hilton. We're going to pick this all apart in a minute. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks are a solid trio, but there isn't anyone behind them that can play meaningful snaps in a pinch. There's plenty of veteran options in free agency who could be a better stopgap than Hilton was in 2022. Let's break those 3 claims down. Claim number 1, Cowboys are 1 injury away from trouble. We all say that about every team, about every position group. And you know what the thing about it is? It's true. Every team is 1 injury away from disaster. It's absolutely true. If Josh Allen goes down for the Buffalo Bills, they are not going to the Super Bowl. They do not have a replacement for Josh Allen. In fact, his backup quarterback this year will be his buddy, no relation, Kyle Allen. You've watched enough Cowboys versus Washington football to know Kyle Allen is not leading the Buffalo Bills to the Super Bowl. There's a reason in Kansas City that every time Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, he goes into the locker room, tapes an aspirin to it, rubs some dirt on it, and comes back out and plays on one leg. Why? Because without him, they can't do what they do. So everybody's 1 injury away. The Cowboys are 1 injury away from being in the same boat they were a year ago at wide receiver. Except here's the additional problem with that particular claim, because you're always one injury away. A year ago at wide receiver, they had CeeDee Lamb. Right, a year ago at this time, CeeDee Lamb and who? I didn't look up the date. Had they signed James Washington by this time? And they drafted Jalen Tolbert by this time. Dude, at this time last year, they had Lamb. Their top three guys were Lamb, Washington, and Tolbert. Now their three guys are Lamb. He says Gallup and then Cooks. He's got it wrong. Lamb, Cooks, and Gallup. That is a completely different looking top three guys from where it was a year ago. So that's a problem. Next problem. Lamb, Gallup, and Brandon Cooks are a solid trio. That's it? That's all you get from them is solid? I haven't done this, and we can do this a little bit off the top of our heads. Are there a whole bunch of wide receiver trios that on paper are better than Lamb, Cooks, and Gallup? We could do it this way. Once upon a time, we thought around here that Lamb, Amari, and Gallup was an elite trio. If we think that Lamb, Amari, and Gallup is an elite trio, then we can't think that Lamb, Cooks, and Gallup is only solid. That's not fair. Item. There isn't anyone behind them who can play meaningful snaps in a pinch. Well, not today, there's not. Because as of today, all I still know about Tolbert is he knows how to play center field in baseball better than he does how to play wide receiver. I hope that's changing. All we know about Simi Fehoko is in practice, he looks like he is bigger and stronger and faster than everybody, and it never translated to a game. All we know about Turpin is that offensively, he was a gimmick guy. So today there isn't a fourth guy, but it's only today. And then there's this. There's plenty of veteran options and free agents who could be a better stopgap than Hilton was in 2022. I don't think so. Otherwise, they would have signed one of them. Had there been a bunch of guys better than T.Y. Hilton laying around out there last December, then why did they sign T.Y. Hilton? So the writer here at Yahoo, Tyler Greenwald, says that he names names. At the Cowboys, he urges the Cowboys to sign either Julio Jones, Kenny Galladay, Jarvis Landry, or Sammy Watkins. Now, we can kick this back and forth too. I haven't taken the time to study all their resumes, what they did last. Okay. Kenny Galladay, if I'm recalling last year with the Giants, was like persona non grata. Am I remembering that wrong? Like, get him out of here. Jarvis Landry, if I'm remembering right, he actually was a pretty good little security blanket for New Orleans, but not good enough for them to sign. Sammy Watkins hadn't done anything in a long time, it seems to me. And Julio Jones, we saw the Bucs try to bring him in a pinch. We first of all, we saw him be really good at Atlanta. He managed to fool the Titans because he did nothing with the Titans. And then in a pinch, the Bucs brought him in, and I think he did nothing again. And I am hesitant to use the word washed on a guy. I don't think it's very nice. But the Julio Jones that we watched last year at the end of the year with the Bucs looked washed. And so, trust me when I suggest to you that they will give, before they go out and do an emergency tie T.Y. Hilton again, which it took them till December to do, they will absolutely give these two levels of guys an opportunity to be the fourth receiver. There's the Tolbert, Fehoko level of guy. And then there's the seventh round rookie Jalen Brooks, and then the UDFA level of guys. They're going to have to go through a lot of levels before they get to calling Julio Jones. I think this criticism, if you will, really downplays what Brandon Cooks is. I think it grossly downplays what Brandon Cooks is. I don't blame you at all if you're like, listen, I saw Tolbert. I saw him not get it done. I don't believe he's ever going to get it done. I don't blame you if you think that. I think that's a little harsh. I think a year of coaching, a year of learning how to play wide receiver can pay off for him. But I agree with what Tony Snow is saying. And I'm saying it about Julio, Galladay, and all those guys. Tony Snow makes a great point. T.Y. was great here. But if you brought T.Y. Hilton back now, it would show a real lack of confidence in all the guys that you've invested in. John P. is here. I come in peace today and today only. I'm an Eagles fan. What? Because, Fish, I found your online community to be the smartest and best on the net. I respect the boys' tradition and history. Somewhere I feel like I'm being suckered in there, Eagles fan, but you're not wrong about this audience. Reed, who saw Tolbert? I didn't see him since his great draft day video and the expert ESPN analysis. Well, I saw him not know where to line up. That's what I saw. Robert Wright, I think the Cowboys trio will be in the top 7 in the league. And we should do that. We could do that exercise. We could take a minute tonight. Sit down and do your homework, and let's do that exercise. But whatever they are at wide receiver today is not needy. Not needy. I think all these guys, Dean Graham, Uncle Fish Premium, what are these contract? I think all these guys right now are veteran minimum kind of guys. Daryl Bentley, you lost to the 49ers because you didn't have enough weapons. You lost to the 49ers because you threw too many interceptions. It also would have helped to have Tony Pollard available in the second half, by the way. Robert G, most NFL teams' fourth wide receiver isn't that good. Now we're talking. The fourth wide receiver on a team. We should go through and find all the fourth wide receivers on a team that are better than the guy I guess you would project to be the fourth wide receiver on this team today would be Jalen Tolbert. And we'd have to go through all the teams. How many teams clearly have a fourth wide receiver who's better than Jalen Tolbert? Not that Jalen Tolbert's done anything, but I think most fourth wide receivers on teams have either A, not done anything, or B, have a resume that's from far too long ago. The Cowboys' biggest hole is not at wide receiver. Item, Zay Flowers, remember him, he came in here on a 30 visit. They are looking at him in Baltimore and saying he's a combination of Brandon Cooks and Antonio Brown. Now, he's a little guy. He's a burner. I hope they mean all the good aspects of Brandon Cooks, obviously, and all the good aspects of Antonio Brown, because Antonio Brown continues to be in terrible trouble. But I will tell you this. See, there's a wide receiver group. Odell Beckham, number 1, coming off the injury. Their number 2 guy is Zay Flowers, I bet, who might do something but hasn't done anything. Last year, if you watched, and then of course they have Lamar Jackson back. last year, if you watch the Ravens, you know who their best receiver was. Their only receiver was their tight end. So I think we're stretching it a lot to say that somebody got to go get a great fourth receiver around here. Item. Carson Wentz is working out in Los Angeles. And Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, he kind of has a habit of doing this. He says he's working out in Los Angeles and he's willing to sign with a team to be either a starter or a backup. Oh, he is. Carson Wentz is willing to be a starter, is he? Well, isn't that generous of him? Item. Deuce Vaughn comes out and says, I'm the hardest working guy you'll ever meet. And I love this. I admire it. I like people that say it. I like people that do it. I like people that think it. We hear every guy say that, of course, when he comes from college to the NFL. And here's the thing. I think they all think they're telling the truth. I don't think they're just passing on pablum. I don't think they're just mouthing the words, because I do think to make the leap from high school to college and then be good enough to have a chance to be in the pros, you had to work your butt off. I think the percentage of people who play college football and then get a chance to play in the NFL is 1%. And obviously, the number of people who play high school football who get a chance to play pro football is 0.000, right? So I absolutely believe that you got here by being the hardest working guy you've ever seen. Here's the downside and here's the upside. The downside to this take is, young man, you ain't seen nothing yet. If you think that it was hard, that the workout for you, that the effort was hard, lifting all them weights, watching all that film. If you think making the move from high school to college was hard, wait till you see this. Because everybody is as big as you. Everybody is as fast as you. Everybody is as smart as you. I'm a big fan of a guy of pedigree. And sometimes it gets you in trouble. For instance, Carson Wentz has pedigree. And it's a damn shame. He lost confidence in himself, and the league has lost confidence in him. And there he sits in Los Angeles. Listen, he's working across the street from the Rams facility. And the Rams 2 weeks ago had one quarterback in the whole building, in Matthew Stafford. Then they overdraft Stetson Bennett Stetson the fourth. And then they sign Rippon, who's been a journeyman at best. They decided that Rippon is better than Carson Wentz. So much so I don't even think they called Carson Wentz, and he was sitting right there. So pedigree matters, man. I do. If you were the best football player in your town when you were, if you were the best 8-year-old football player in your league, and then you were the best 13-year-old football player in your league, and then when you were 17, you made All-State. I'm a believer. But trust me when I tell you, this is different. And handling yourself like a professional is different. Making sure that you focus on that. Like, definitely, by all means, buy your mom a car. Buy your mom a house. I'm all for it. And then that's it. Buy your mom a house, and that's it. And spend the rest of your time having somebody that you trust, not just Uncle Jesse, handle your money, and get to work. I'm reminded, and again, these things aren't always automatic. You know what? You know what Felix Jones had for furniture the first year in the house he rented? Remember Felix Jones? You know what he did for furniture? He had a bed, and he had lawn chairs in his living room. Why did he have lawn chairs in his living room? Because he didn't spend any time in his living room. He didn't want to spend the money, and he didn't spend any time. This, of course, is this must be pre-video games, I suppose. Or maybe he played video games while sitting on the edge of his bed. Yeah, Ryan, I'm not talking about how Felix Jones turned out to be a great player. I'm talking about the focus that it takes to get these things done. Stephen White, I agree with you, and I always have thought this. If I was a 21-year-old kid and I played at Georgia or wherever, and I got drafted by the Bills or the Cowboys or Seattle, if my mom, again, in most cases, I got a mom and my dad, and they're both working. They're not moving to Seattle. But if I could, I would bring my mom with me. And I would have we call it, Marsha might have invented this term, momager. She would be my momager. And she would help run my show. And I'm serious. And I'm surprised more guys don't do it. Of course, some guys, they've already been away from home for 2 years because they've been in college, not much more than 2 years, sometimes 4. They've already been out on their own. They don't want to feel like they need to be babysat by their mother, except for one problem with that. They do need to be babysat by their mother. It would be their mother that would tell him, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? They do need to be babysat by their mother. Here's the flip side to the I'm the hardest working guy you ever saw. Deuce Vaughn at 5'5", 179. He might just be telling the truth. He might just be telling the truth. I'm reminded of, speaking of my sainted wife, when I first got to know Des Bryant. And, this goes back a decade now. And of course, we all know about Des's very difficult upbringing. And I'm telling you, although we can certainly argue that somebody at some point did something right, Des Bryant overcame a lot. You probably know some of the stories. His family couldn't afford to pay the money for him to go sign up for Little League football because you had to buy the shoulder pads or rent the shoulder pads. So he looked in a equipment shed one day and saw shoulder pads in there and stole them because it was the only way he was going to get to play. He grew up in a house with a dirt floor. Let that soak in. Let that sink in. As you know, his grandfather, I think you know this, is his father. For him to have found a way to figure it out, I think it's one of the greatest. I think the Des Bryant story is one of the greatest stories in sports. And I once had a talk with him. This is when we were first getting to know each other. We were in London. It was for that, obviously, the Cowboys Jacksonville game, and traveling with the team. And they had advised us, listen, you might as well stay up all night or day, whatever it was. Just stay up so your body clock can get back into rhythm. Don't go to bed after the game. Just stay up. So, I mean, I went down the lobby and a bunch of it just hung out down there. And Rich Bisaccia, that's where I got to know him. We just sat there and talked for hours. Then here comes Dez, and we sat there and talked for hours, just me and Dez. And it's where I learned to appreciate him. And I didn't say that. It took me a little while to say this to him then, but we have talked about it since, and I've mentioned it on Randy Gregory too. In hockey, the way I understand it, and I grew up in Minnesota, so I think I have some understanding of it. And Mike Modano helped me with how this worked. Yes, Mike Modano, my former roommate, and that's a true story. You get to be a certain age in hockey, and they realize you've got the potential to go to the NHL. And they farm you out. Like, you know, how in baseball, they call it the farm system. In hockey, it's farms, because that's what you have in Canada. You go work on a farm and then go, like, he grew up in suburban Detroit, Modano did. Well, they don't have it. They don't have that system there. So he moved when he was 15 years old to Canada and lived with basically a hockey foster family. The NFL should do that. When Dez Bryant came here, the NFL should have had a system, and I'm saying this for the benefit of Dez Bryant, obviously. I'm sorry if I missed some of your super chat comments. Let me go back and see. There's Bryce Fish. UC Paramount gets exclusive playoff game. Yeah, I'm really confused, Bryce. Thanks for throwing that out there. I'm going to be really confused when this game is going to be on. Amazon's confusing enough to an old man like me, but this game's going to be streaming only, and that game's going to be, I don't know. I have enough problems with why the Mavericks, I can't find the Mavericks on TV. This subject has been brought up by yours truly to the people that were on the Mavericks. Why don't you just put them on Channel 21, which is affiliated with Channel 11, which obviously doesn't go to every home in the state, but everybody, you would get more Mavericks fans. You would get more 10-year-olds to like the Mavericks if they could watch them on TV. 10-year-olds don't watch the Mavericks on TV. They can't find them. Harold B., $10 pitch in. Would you please break down the running back skill sets? Do we have a power back of any consequence? I see that as a weakness. That's an excellent point. And Malik Davis is not a gigantic guy, but he runs with power for a 200-pound guy. Rojo runs with power, but if we're talking about the battering ram kind of running back, which Ezekiel Elliott with his 12 touchdowns certainly was last year, the Cowboys do not have that on the roster. Do you let the undrafted rookie Bison get to be that running back? I'm not even close to being ready for that. Do you bring Ezekiel Elliott back? It just doesn't seem like that's the vibe. By the way, as we reported this morning, the big exclusive saying he was close to signing with the Browns or the Chargers. It may happen, but close hadn't come yet. So I think that's a good point. The Cowboys swear that Tony Pollard is a perfectly fine run between the tackles running back. And I must say, he surprised me by doing it as well as he did it last year. This year, though, what if he's asked to do it like twice as many times? So Dez Bryant or Randy Gregory. Randy Gregory should have come to Dallas and moved in with Marsha's parents. Marsha's parents, strict but loving. Christian, but not shove it down your throat. Is that a fair way to say it, Sugar? Very devoted to their church. Raised 3 kids. 3 kids turned out okay. Yeah, okay. One of them turned out fantastic. I wouldn't have married the other 2. They're boys. Marcia's mom has passed away now. Marcia's dad is 95. And of course, Marcia, he lives in a nursing care facility, and Marcia visits him every day and takes care of him. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It really is. Had Randy Gregory lived in that house, he would not have snuck. Had Randy Gregory lived with your parents, had they been his foster parents, he comes here, he's 21 years old. He's got a marijuana problem, and he's also got a personality disorder. They would have helped him. They would have helped him like foster parents. And when he went into the bathroom and your mom saw the marijuana smoke coming out from the bottom of the thing, come out from the bottom of the door jam, she would have done something about it. She would have said something about it, firm and lovingly. Instead, nobody did anything. I tell the story about Des Bryant, as you know. Des Bryant would wake up in the morning to go to school and get out of his little bed and step onto his dirt floor of his house and have to step over people to get to the front door to get out of his house. And he didn't always know the people that he was stepping over. Des Bryant's turned out great. Des Bryant, by the way, is a wonderful daddy. But had Des Bryant, when he came here, had he moved in with your parents, who lived how many blocks away from Valley Ranch?
10.
Lived 8 blocks away from Valley Ranch. He could have walked to work. He would have had, not that he didn't already have a mommy and a daddy of a sort. He would have had an adopted mommy and a daddy that would have said, hey, Dad, really, they would have said, hey, Des, you forgot something when he started walking out the front door. And she would have, too. She would have said, you forgot to make your bed. I packed you lunch. It's in the fridge. You forgot that. And you forgot to give me a hug goodbye. She would have. And what a difference that might have made for, again, I'm not picking on any one guy, what a difference that might have made for hundreds of guys. Hockey does this. Some NFL team's going to figure this out. Because you know what they do now for rookies? They have a rookie, ends in Orium, like a rookie orientation-y kind of a thing. A rookie convention. That's the one where Chris Carter went up and spoke on stage and said, make sure you have a fall guy. You familiar with that one? Meaning, for instance, if the police pull you over, make sure that your fall guy says it's his gun, not yours.
Wow.
This is Chris Carter giving real advice at a sanctioned event. The joke of it is, and I'm not exaggerating, this is the event where they show the players, they take out bananas, they used to a couple years ago, and show them how to put a condom on a banana. Now, I'm not making, there's nothing funny about it. Well, okay, yes, there is.
But it's true.
It's true that they need that kind of guidance, but they need all kinds of guidance. And sending them to a symposium where they learn how to put a condom on a banana and are told, make sure you have a fall guy, and I suppose get some sort of financial guidance, just general advice that they can't possibly understand. So they were just handed a check for $4 million. And in many cases, they didn't listen, Carson is 7. Carson's a smart little boy and he's only 7. Carson thinks when he plays pro football, he did this today, he did a report at school. He wants to play professional football so he can make $2,000. Now, he's 7, so I'm not trying to confuse 7 with 17. But the NFL should offer, and the smartest team will be the first team that does it, offer not a symposium where you go for a weekend in New York City and put a condom on a banana, a symposium where we're going to go to the Star and there's going to be foster parents who want to meet you and get to know you and guide you. And do you have to live with them? You would in my book. You want to save a lot of money? Go live with Marcia's parents for the first year and save your money. And they'll show you how to save. Boy, they'll show you how to save their money. They're of a certain generation. They'll show you. Balance a checkbook. And I know I know that people don't physically balance the checkbook anymore, but you still have to intellectually balance a checkbook, and nobody knows how to do it. All right, is that enough of that? That's enough of that. They want to cut Sir Neville Gallimore, sir. The idea is that since Mozzie is here, we don't need Sir Neville Gallimore, sir, anymore. Slow your roll. Slow your roll. This team collects defensive linemen. They're smart to do it. If you've got defensive lineman ability that allows you to play multiple positions, and Neville Gallimore is a big body guy who at one point they just thought the world of him. Now he's gotten beat, the elbow thing in Arizona, where his elbow like fell to pieces. He's had some things that haven't gone wrong. Don't give up on these guys, Cowboy fan. I know that the media thinks it's its job. We gotta start doing roster cutdowns now, and it's May. I'm not cutting Neville Gallimore, and he's going to have to be terrible in the preseason for me to cut Neville Gallimore because I signed Mozzie Smith. What's really going to happen is somebody's going to stub their toe, and then they go on the injured list. That's what you really do. A bunch of you guys are bringing up I think you're bringing up Michael Irvin. We can do that. I can do that with you all day long too. I say this with all due humility, of which I have very little. But it just so happens on the subject of these two guys, there is no media person in the world more well-versed on Dez Bryant and Michael Irvin than me. You're looking at him. I know all about it. We've talked about Michael Irvin writing an autobiography, and I'm like, if you don't let me write it, you're a moron. Of course, the damn thing would have to be about this thick.
That'll be volumes.
But I know all about it. Eating cereal without milk, which by the way I do too. He still eats cereal without milk. Why did he eat cereal without milk? Because they didn't have any milk. They just had cereal. 17 kids.
That'll do it.
I got to know his mom a little bit. A saint. The reason I didn't get to know his dad is because his dad died when Michael was 17. His dad was a roofer 6 days a week and a preacher on Sundays. And his dad worked 7 days a week. And his dad passed away in part because he was working his tail off the way he did. And Michael at age 17, had to become the daddy of the family of 17 kids. I get it. I understand it. And I will say this, I've never said it to Michael Irvin because he came blowing into town. And the first thing he did was act, hey, there's, like Tom Landry was his pal. Hey, we're teammates now. Hey, Tom. He came in like blowing and going like he does all the time. Like Michael Irvin walks into a room, and even if he doesn't think that he's the cock of the walk, he cock of the walks his way into the room. That's his way. That's his way of surviving. And it's worked for him. But you bet, when Michael Irvin first moved here, he absolutely could have benefited from having a foster family that helped him. Would have kept him out of all kinds of trouble. And your mom could have said, why don't you not wear that fur coat to court? I've got a lovely fur coat that is more of a springtime wrap. Finally, Jalen Hurts, impressive cat. A bunch of you guys are saying Dez should be wide receiver coach or Irvin should be the wide receiver coach. Listen, I love those two guys. Ask Michael Irvin. Hey, if you ever bump into Michael Irvin, ask him, hey, how did Mike Fisher come up with any sort of successful career? And Michael Irvin will say, because of me. He will take credit for my career. He will. And Dez Bryant isn't far behind. But the reason that Dez can't be the wide receiver coach on the Dallas Cowboys, and the reason Michael Irvin can't be the wide receiver coach on the Dallas Cowboys, is because the coach has to show up on time to the meetings. You follow me? The Cowboys team bus with Michael Irvin, the last guy on the bus, every single bus trip for 10 years was Michael Irvin. Every time. No, they're not cut out for coaching. Jalen Hurts cut out to be president of the United States. It was Trayvon Diggs. And of course, he's half joking. But listen, this league, we need to put some respect on Jalen Hurts' name, because even the Cowboys players they talk about his qualities, not unlike we talk about Dak's qualities. They talk about Dak's qualities too. Now Jalen Hurts has done one more thing than Dak has. That's fair, but they are cut from the same cloth in a way. They both have, I'm the CEO of the football team about them, and it's hard to get it done without that. So Jalen Hurts is going to get respect in this space because he conducts himself, in a way that's not dissimilar to how Dak Prescott conducts himself. And Trayvon Diggs goes, because he got his master's degree, Jalen Hurts over the weekend. And Diggs goes, he's probably going to run for president of the United States someday. Luckily, we're way away from that because he's 26. And as all you educated Cowboy fans know, my dad, by the way, called me and said, I can't believe that. Seriously, my dad calls me. He's 83, and says, I can't believe how smart your audience is. He goes, and he brought up the TV guy. He goes, that audience, Skip. He goes, that audience must be especially dumb compared to your audience. He reads the exchanges and the fun we have and the good questions and the good answers. And we're going to prove how smart you are, because you will all understand you can't become president of the United States when you're 26. You must wait until you're
35.
That's correct. Marcia, you get a gold star.
Pay attention in government.
Big buck with a $2 pitch-in. Should they make Dak more mobile again like year one? One of the things that, because I covered the 49ers in 88 and 89, and obviously that was Montana, who was mobile, and then Young, who was a runner. And you know what they did that you could add here? They call it the waggle. I don't know what Mike McCarthy grew up in that system, maybe does too. You know the waggle? You know what the waggle is? So here's the tight end. Here's the wide receiver. Here's the quarterback. And the tight end and the wide receiver both run kind of parallel to the line of scrimmage, forcing the outside linebacker to choose. You're going to come up and get me, or you're going to stay back and get him. And of course, you can do all kinds of deception with it and stuff. It's all, you can do a reverse waggle, all kinds. So it doesn't have to be Dak running. It's Dak mobile. Anthony calls it horizontal running. Right. Joe Montana wasn't a good running back, but he was a good horizontal runner and a thrower and a decision maker on the run. And of course, Steve Young brought another level to it, of course. The waggle. There you go. If you find that tonight's program was particularly educational and heartfelt, plus, I noticed you noticed my new, this is supposed to be an undershirt. This is a compression shirt, a cowboy compression shirt. It's supposed to be this tight. So I won't be wearing this in public. This is an undershirt, but I can show you the back of it. Want to see the back of it? Because it's cool. This is a real live cowboy.
Careful.
Oh yeah. Here, do you see the back of it?
Or is it like I can't see it.
Look. Come on.
Okay.
It's got that V shape back there to accentuate my attempt at having a V shape on my own. So yeah, Max says, "Hey Fish, love the shirt. Does it belong to your 7-year-old grandson, Carson? Fish out.